My name is Kenneth Brady, and I am 102 years old. I was born in 1921. During my school years, it resulted in having a very successful business career. So I would like to give you a few words of how to become successful while you're in school. This is the start of another school year, and you can learn from the fact that whatever you learn now is what a lot you will use in later life. When I was in school, there were two things that I was taught to become very useful for me. And that one was to be reliable in what I did and to be responsible for what I did. Being responsible and reliable, they were very successful traits in my business career. And I think even though I'm in retirement now, in my working years, I had a very successful career, and my supervisors recognized those two attributes of being responsible and being reliable. At my age of 102, I keep thinking about how old you students are. If you're around the age of 15, to reach my age of 102, you'll reach that age in around the year 2110. That's a long time from now. In my 102 years, I've seen quite a few changes. For example, radio. All of you students, I'm sure, have a radio. You listen to radios. There are radios in cars, radios everywhere. I remember when radio first started. In the year 1921, commercial radio station, the first one, was really starting to broadcast. It came on the air a few months before, but it really started in 1921. And that first radio was the start. By 1927, I remember our family first radio. That first radio sat up on a shelf, and it was a huge and large, heavy radio. But it had no speaker. No speaker? How could anyone listen to the radio with no speaker? Those first radios had two sets of earphones, so two people could listen to the radio at the same time. Two people. Today, if your teacher at the front of the room had a radio, she could turn it on and every student in the room could hear the radio. But my first family radio, two people could listen to the radio. Movies started back shortly after World War I, but they were all silent movies. And to know what was happening, they would put a caption at the bottom of the screen so you would know what the actors and actresses were saying. Well, in 1927, the first sound movie came into the theaters. And that was a big transaction from silent movies to sound movies. And I remember sometime in 1927, our family went to the theater to see our first sound movie. And when we got seated in the theater, I was very fortunate to have the end seat right on the aisle. When the movie started, and I started to hear voices coming from the screen for the first time, I thought for sure that they probably had people sitting behind the screen doing the talking. And for my curiosity, I suddenly jumped up, ran down the aisle, up the steps, and I looked behind the screen expecting to see people. I was shocked. There were no people back there, but yet the sound was coming from the movie screen. So that was our introduction to sound movies.
So how old were you then?
1927, I was 6 years old in 1927.
Do you remember how much it cost to go to the movies back then?
I don't remember exactly that year, but for years it cost 10 cents to go to the movies. For my school years, we rode to school on a streetcar. Back in those days of when I started school back in the 1930s and so forth on up, there were no school buses. Anyway, we went to school from where I lived in Hershey by streetcar. And it was a school streetcar, just like they have school buses now. It was a school streetcar, and the school also picked up other children along the way. And I remember the first time that I remember having a crush on a girl was when it happened on the school streetcar. One of the girls would be picked up first before we got on the streetcar. But that girl, Annabelle, became my first crush of a girl back in my school days.
So what happened to Annabelle?
Oh, eventually, we knew each other over the years. Annabelle married a good friend of mine. In fact, I was the best man at their wedding. But yet, she was the first girl I had a crush on. In closing to you, I would like to give you a little bit of advice. Make sure that over the years you listen to your teachers, you follow the teacher's instructions. Also, have a very good year in school and a good life to follow.